right, in today's video, we're going to go over how to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient and a greatest common factor. So if we look at this trinomial, it may have a greatest common factor, but it may not be the first number. Like before, we've seen in the past that the greatest common factor was always the first number or your leading coefficient. But 15 doesn't go into all three of these numbers. So we're going to talk about how to factor these. So here's the step. You first check for greatest common factor. If there is one, factor it out. And then multiply the coefficients of A times C, and then find the factors of A times C that add up to B. Rewrite, place in the box and factor, and then write the factors. Make sure you write the greatest common factor out in front. So let's first look at this one. So our first step is we need to find the greatest common factor. So I suggest if you don't know what goes into 15, 115, and 70, just check the numbers 1 through 10 and find the largest number that goes into all of three of these numbers. So I see these numbers end in 5, so that's a good indication that 5 goes into all of them. So I'm going to take 15 divided by 5, 115 divided by 5, and 70 divided by 5. And they all divide by 5 evenly, so when I do that, I pull out the 5 and I'm left with 3v squared plus 23v plus 14. So our greatest common factor is 5. And then from here, we're going to do what we did in the past with this one. So you're going to multiply 3 times 14, and that equals 42. So you're going to find the factors of 42 that add up to 23. So I first took 2 and 21, that multiplies to 42, and 2 plus 21 equals 23. So step 4, I'm going to rewrite it as 5 times 3v squared plus 20. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From here, you're going to rewrite it as 5 times 3v squared plus 2v plus 21v plus 14. And then put everything into the box. Okay, and then from this step, after you've put everything into the box, so when I say everything in the box, I mean you're not going to put the greatest common factor in the box, but everything in parentheses into the box. Okay, so from there, you are going to take the greatest common factor out. So the only thing that comes out is v, and then v times 3 is 3v squared, and then v times 2 is 2v, and then 3v times 7 is 21v, and 7 times 2 is 14. Okay, now that we have our factors, our last step is to rewrite it as 5 times 3v plus 2 and v plus 7. Okay, we're going to do this one again. Again. So check which number goes into all three. And I can test. I see that 2 goes into all three of them. 3 goes on into all three, but it looks like the largest number that goes into all three is 6. So I'm going to divide all of them by 6. Again, if you don't know how to figure it out, just find the largest number from 1 to 10 that goes into all three terms. Okay, and then we pull out our 6. And then from here, we're going to go on to the next step. So the next step, we're going to multiply our A and C, which is 70, put it in our box. So we're going to find the factors of 70 that add up to negative 19. Well, I found 5 and 14 multiplied to 70, and 5 plus 14 equals 19. But what we want it to be is negative 19. So I'm going to make them negative. Then I'm going to rewrite it as 10b minus 5b minus 14b plus 7 and put it in our box. Okay, and then find the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor between 10 and negative 5 is 5. And then 5 times 2 is 10b squared. 5b times negative 1 gives me the negative 5b. And then negative 7 times 2b is negative 14. And negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. And then my last step is to rewrite it. Okay, let's move on to the last example. So in the last example, our first term is negative. So whenever there's a negative, you have, with your first term, you have to divide all of your numbers down here by a negative, whatever number that will be. Okay, so looking at here, I think the largest number that goes into all three of these is negative 3. So I'm going to divide out negative 3. And when I divide out negative 3, I get 9 squared plus 56 and plus 12. So from here, I am going to multiply my A and C to get 108 and add to 56. So 2 times 54 is 108. 2 plus 54 is 56. So we rewrite it, and we get negative 3 times 9n squared plus 2n plus 54n plus 12, and put it in the box. So the only thing that is common between 9n squared and 2n is n. n times 9n is 9n squared. n times 2 is 2n. And then we get 6 times 9n is 54, and 6 times 2 is 12. And then we factor it out and write our final answer. If you have any questions, please contact me.